Hello, everyone. Yesterday, some of you told me that you would like to talk about your summer vacations. Who would like to start?
I would, Miss Thompson. I had a great time. I went camping in Florida. I got to see Disney World. It was terrific.
I went to visit my aunt and uncle. They live in a real big city. I never saw a place like that. So many tall buildings.
You're right. Big cities are different from where we live. In fact, today we are going to talk about where people live. People live in neighborhoods. A group of neighborhoods make up a community. A community is a place where people live and work. A neighborhood is part of a community. Some communities have many neighborhoods, and some communities have only a few neighborhoods. One of the things all communities, big and small, have in common is that they are made up of all the people who live there. People who live with other people in communities help each other. They work together and learn together. And they have a lot of fun living together in their community. Have you ever thought about how many different kinds of communities there are and how the people live there? I'm sure that some of you have noticed that we have 2 new children in our class this year. Ellen is from a small community in the state of Iowa. Iowa is in the middle part of our country. And the other new member of our class, Morris, is from New York City, a very big community. As you know, a community is a place where people live. Whether it's a big city community like New York, where Morris is from, or the small farming community where Ellen lived. Farming communities are made up of a lot of land. People in farming communities usually live in homes for one family. They also have a lot of land around their homes, land used to grow crops or to raise animals. Sometimes they need to go to town to buy supplies or sell their produce. Sometimes the town is very far from where they live. People in farming communities do have neighbors, but they usually don't live nearby. Sometimes neighbors get together to help each other on their farms or ranches, like these men painting this barn. Ranches are like farms in certain ways. Some ranchers raise cattle. Some raise chickens. Some ranchers raise crops, such as fruits. And people in farming communities also get together for county fairs. It is a time to visit with neighbors and to find out what people have been doing during the year.
I loved our county fair. One year, I won first prize for my pumpkin. I grew it myself.
Well, I've never won a prize for a pumpkin, but I did win a prize for shooting hoops at the playground.
Shooting hoops is what city children call basketball, right?
That's right, Mrs. Thompson.
Let's review. There are different kinds of communities. Some people live in big city communities, and some people live in farming communities.
We know that large city communities are different in many ways from farm communities. Let's talk about what it's like to live in a big city, a city like New York, where Morris lived. In a city community, people may live in apartment buildings. Apartment buildings are homes for many people. People live in neighborhoods. They shop in neighborhood stores, stores they can walk to. Children play in playgrounds that are right in their neighborhood. In New York City, where Morris is from, There are trains that run under the ground. They are called subways. When people want to go to another neighborhood or to another part of the city, they can also take a bus. Another way to get to another neighborhood is a taxi cab.
When I lived in New York City, we took a train to visit my cousin. He lived outside the city.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Morris. A community just outside a city is called a suburb. Suburbs are not exactly like cities or like farm communities. Suburbs are a little of both. Suburbs have more people and houses than farm communities, but fewer stores and tall buildings than big cities. Just like in the city, people in suburbs live in neighborhoods, but they usually have to drive to the shopping center. Most children who live in the suburbs get to school by riding on a school bus, like children who live in farm communities. Some children who live in the city ride the bus to school too.
You have just learned about suburbs. Suburbs are communities outside big cities.
You know, Mrs. Thompson, it sounds like where I lived and where Morris lived are not so different.
You're right, Ellen. All communities have places for people to work, like offices.
Factories.
And farms.
There are places to go with your family, like parks.
A county fair.
Or an amusement park.
And there are places to go shopping, like a shopping center.
Or a country store.
Or a big department store.
Well, class, I'm sure you all understand what a community is.
We sure do, Miss Thompson. Communities are places where people live.
And where they work.
And don't forget play.
You're all correct. City community, suburban community, or farm community. Wherever you live, that's your community.